Josh, welcome. Welcome to W Media, the studio.
Thank you very much. I love the introduction. Love the facility. Looking forward to this.
Really nice. Our friends here at W Media were kind enough to let us use the studio here. So just had a great conversation with Kevin Guzzo, the new VP of Athletics for I.E.Mindset. And so really excited to talk to you about, learn more about your background, learn about Ignite. It's been such a great resource here in West Michigan. Find out a little bit about, your collaboration with I.E.Mindset, why you kind of chose that path, and then, certainly provide some information for folks to understand more about the technology, what you do at Ignite, and then if they're interested, how they can get in contact. So before we get into all that, if you could, maybe just give the audience some perspective on your background up to this point, kind of where you started, what your career looked like, and then, kind of the culmination to where you're at and founding Ignite today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bill, for the opportunity to have conversation with you in this format. Lifelong West Michigan resident, raised here, raised my kids in this community. So I really have a deep-rooted affliction for this area. So when I started out as a physical therapist in this area, built several clinics in the physical therapy arena. COVID hit and decided that it was time to take a turn and got in the medical device arena. And in the process of developing that, came across some great people that opened my eyes to a lot of different ways of helping people out there versus the traditional healthcare model, which you get sick, you get injured, you go to the doctor, you get a prescription, you fill that prescription, you go to traditional physical therapy. That doesn't work. Now you're getting imaging, then maybe surgery. And that whole mindset of the traditional healthcare really was not working for a lot of people. And being exposed to different devices, different ways to help people kind of opened my eyes. And this journey began, I would say, when I was 17 years old and I injured my back and ended up having surgery, and went to the surgeon 2 weeks after surgery and asked, "So what's next, doc?" And he said, "Surgery was a success. You're good to go." Well, telling a 17-year-old 3 weeks after surgery that he's good to go is not a good recipe for success. So I was dealing with chronic low back pain my whole life, and that geared me towards the profession of physical therapy in the healthcare field. And I was continuing having chronic low back pain, would take care of it with the physical therapy. And it was just a cycle that was just never ending. It was a just continuous cycle of being in bad pain. So using my knowledge in physical therapy and some of the other devices that we will talk about, I have been able to live a relatively healthy life at my age without low back pain. Going on a year or 2 years now. So
without surgery and without pharmacological.
I had surgery when I was 17.
Right, but I'm saying since then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm allergic to NSAIDs, so taking any NSAIDs, anti-inflammatories, was never an option for me. So I was forced to use different means to help myself. And I'm using that knowledge and that experience now at Ignite.
Wonderful. That's a great transition. So for the audience, so what exactly is it, Ignite PRP? What is that?
Ignite PRP is a wellness recovery center for people of all ages. And the PRP is the 3 pillars that we really stand by with Ignite. Okay. The first one is performance, and that is enhancing performance, whether it is in your day-to-day activities as a new mom or a stay-at-home mom or a business person or a high school, middle school professional athlete, college level, or just wanting to improve your performance, to walk around the block, to, help be healthier, feel better. The second one is recovery from injury, recovery from illness, recovery from inactivity, and, just recovery for whatever has kept you down from achieving your maximum potential. And the third one is prevention of a future injury, of a future illness, of anything that, may crop up in the future. So performance recovery prevention, PRP.
Okay. And so, PRP, it's the performance recovery prevention. So talk to us about what that looks like, the modalities. I mean, I think a lot of folks are kind of familiar or heard about cold plunge or sauna, but what's the offerings to help folks on that performance recovery?
There has been a massive shift in people's mindset, right along with mine, of taking control of their health. Whether this happened during COVID when we were all on lockdown and, things were spiraling out of control, people wanted to start to take control of their own health and well-being. Mm-hmm. So we have multiple modalities. We have the cold plunge, we have this infrared saunas, we have pulse electromagnetic field therapy, PEMF, we have compression garments, hyperbaric chamber, brain tap, and red light therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, like I said, if you go scroll social media, you look at TikTok, whatever, a lot of people are cold plunging. That's got a lot of momentum. A lot of folks probably know about sauna, infrared sauna. But, for me, in my visits to Ignite, some of the other modalities that I like, to your point, the red light therapy, brain tap for me has been awesome. It's just putting it on and it's kind of somebody talking to me into my subconscious mind, positive things, how things are going to be better, those types of things. And then even the PEMF piece, which is really mimicking grounding. So a lot of people, I feel like, may know about cold plunging and sauna, but relative to like PEMF or red light therapy, why would somebody want to use those two or three modalities?
Yeah. So prior to opening Ignite, I'm going to pull around the curtain a little bit. I'd never cold plunged. And I do believe my first time cold plunging was with you.
Yeah.
But we're opening this facility and we're going to have cold plunges in there. And I'm going to tell people how great the benefits of cold plunges are. And I've never done it. Well, we got a cold plunge. I set it up in my backyard and started cold plunging every day. And I would do it before work or after work. And the benefits, both mentally, physically, and just emotionally, I was blown away by it. Mm-hmm. The neurotransmitters in your brain has to be firing on all cylinders at a cold plunge. The first 20 seconds of it, not the most enjoyable experience. You got to breathe through it. You got to get through over that hump because you're getting in, cold water.
Right.
And we keep it at different temperatures for different people. So we have three different temperatures.
Okay.
Depending on the level of the person, whether you're a college athlete or extreme athlete, you might want to go a little colder. We have a middle and we have a warm one. But so the benefits of the cold plunge, one is improved circulation. As you get in the cold plunge, your blood goes up to your vital organs because that's your body's kind of defense mechanism when it's stressed. It feeds the organs in the brain. But then as you get out and it releases that new blood flow to that area, it's helping new healthy blood flow get to areas that maybe aren't getting it. Also, it helps with immunity. This time of year, there's a lot of illness, sickness going around. And cold plunging has demonstrated the ability to increase white blood cells, which helps fight infection. It also helps with clarity and concentration afterwards because, how do people wake up through, centuries? They splash cold water on the face. Well, this is splashing cold water on your whole body, and you have a increased focus and concentration throughout the day by doing the cold plunge. It's also a full body anti-inflammatory. Go back throughout the years. You sprain your ankle, you hurt your knee, you hurt your shoulder, you put a bag of ice on it. First response.
Yeah.
Well, a cold plunge is a full body anti-inflammatory or full body bag of ice, basically. And it helps with, any kind of swelling, circulation, injury, things like that. Like, I think a key part of why I've been able to stay healthy with my back is doing the cold plunge on a regular basis.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, when athletes or, mid 40s, 50s folks like us come in, you've got all of these different modalities and different therapies. How does that work? I mean, I'm sure there's some people that come in and just do cold plunge or But would you say there's a kind of a secret sauce that you would recommend or that you like relative to start with cold plunge and then go to heat and then back? Is there anything like that that's, maybe clinically beneficial?
Great question. We individualize each person's program. First visit is a conversation on why they're there, what they're looking for, any past medical history that is relevant that they want to work on. And then we'll customize their regimen for them. Now, we've had many people walk in the first day and I'm giving a tour and they're like, never cold plunge. It is the most polarizing of anything we have. And I'm never going to do it. So, hey, you don't have to do it. It's not a prerequisite to cold plunge to get the benefits of Ignite.
All right.
Second visit they're in and it's like, so what are the temperatures of those? How long do I have to go in for? And by the third or fourth visit, they just naturally progress to it and they love it.
Yeah.
So the normal protocol I would have for most people is cold plunge for about 3 minutes.
Okay.
Hit the infrared sauna for 15 to 20, and then go back to the cold plunge, and then follow that up with the red light therapy. So your body is naturally warming up, which also increases burning of calories.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
And that's kind of the protocol that I've kind of incorporated since I've been in there. So you've got a bunch of different clients that you serve. You opened in October. I know that the fanfare has been great. I mean, every time that I post that I'm in, and I've only been in, a couple of times over the last few weeks, it gets great response. I get people DM me on the side. Is that your place? How did you open that? What is, questions around it? There's been a lot of intrigue around it. So give me an idea of like what's the client base has been kind of over the last 6 months for you.
We've had as young as an 11-year-old with chronic headaches from post-concussion come in. We've had upwards of 75-year-olds coming in with neuropathy. We've had high school athletes. We've had college athletes. We've had aspiring professional athletes come in. So there really is not a one target audience. Everybody can benefit from improved health and wellness. We've had people like biohackers come in or triathletes coming in that, want to take their performance to the next level. We just had a group of Division II college football players come in for 5 weeks prior to their prep for the NFL draft. So they're chasing their goals. We've had people with neuropathy coming in, neurological diseases coming in, Parkinson's. So there really isn't a one target audience. Everybody can benefit from better health and wellness.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, along those lines, certainly we want to respect HIPAA and keep people's personal information confidential, but just to maybe illuminate a few stories, whether it's athlete or, middle-aged old guy like myself, give me some examples of they came in this state and this was the outcome.
So we'll start one. We've had a gentleman in his 60s, I think, and has had 10-year bout of neuropathy where he has not been able to feel his feet for 10 years. And we developed a system, a customized system for him to follow, and he can feel his feet. Like he told me the other day, I was walking across my kitchen floor and my feet were cold for the first time.
Wow.
So it's things like that. We go by a very simple philosophy with the program we do with Ignite is make a difference. And if you're making a difference in people's lives, you're serving more than just chasing the dollar. And if you're focusing on, the bank account or how many members are paying this, any other thing, you're going to lose sight of the biggest difference. That's making a difference. We had a 70-year-old lady come in, do cold plunge the first time. She had tears in her eyes. She was crying because she was able to overcome that obstacle. And, I said to her, I said, whatever happens throughout the rest of your day, you can handle it because you just did this. This was a huge accomplishment for you. So it's making a difference in people's lives. We had a college volleyball player that had to retire from volleyball at college because of too many concussions. She had headaches every day for a year. Within 3 weeks, she was no longer having headaches.
Yeah.
Now, for people that suffer from headaches, migraines, things like that, that is a game changer. That is an absolute game changer for these people because they don't know how. She's like, I don't know how to live without headaches.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. On a higher end, I was just out at Grand Valley on Monday watching the combine, the Division II combines. And, there's 6 or 7, 8 of them that were coming in, and they were, you get to know them. You get to build a relationship with them, and you get invested interest in their performance. So I went out there to support them, and just, they all would come up and thank me and everything like that. And then to see that they're blowing away their personal best by significant percentage based on what they were doing prior to that. And the only thing different was the recovery portion of it. We work with a lot of high school athletes who, by the end of the year, they have a lot of nicks and sprains and strains. And, I had conversations with them at the end of the year. I said, hey, so how is this year different? And they're like, we're ready to go a day after versus 2 to 3 days after. Right. So it's that recovery from a hard game so it's the bottom line is make a difference. And that's what we're hoping to accomplish at Ignite. And we are doing that multiple times on a daily basis, is making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I know it's an explosive topic. I don't want to necessarily open a can of worms, but, just coming from a sort of a medical device background myself and understanding different modalities and outcomes, I know a lot of people relative to pain specifically, right, have used, pharmacological methods to, basically mitigate that pain. And it's turned into an epidemic in our society, certainly. And so I think having, to your point at the start of our conversation, alternative therapies, that are a little bit more of a holistic approach without the contraindications and the side effects, I think is something that's needed in our society. It's warranted. And I think, in fact, if folks join Ignite, they can use their HSA account to pay for their membership, right? I mean, so it's I think it's moving in the right direction, as being seen as a reliable, indicated, methodology for people to reduce pain and recovery. And certainly glad that it's part of our community. So I guess to transition a little bit. So, our collaboration at I.E.Mindset, we've certainly had a long friendship, both personally with sports, our boys, playing travel basketball and baseball, and that's been great. But we've always had the professional side too. Relative to you deciding to work with I.E.Mindset, which was really a decision for you to say, I'm going to invest in myself, right? I'm going to invest in myself, whether it's, sort of a tactical business acumen piece, is it mindset? You decided to say, hey, I'd like to collaborate with somebody to help me kind of get my business and myself to the next level. So what was it about that made you take that kind of leap to say, hey, I'm going to engage with I.E.Mindset. I'd like to get some coaching. Let's work together.
So as the process of Ignite was developing, we were going through the different modalities and devices that we're going to use. And the cornerstone of it was the pulse electromagnetic field therapy by Pulse PEMF.
Okay.
And once we started building off from that, the business part of it kind of settled itself out. I know the medical part. I know the advantages that having the Pulse PEMF has in people's lives. I can tell you what red light therapy does. I can educate people on what's going on. But as you start a new business, it's 24/7. I mean, there's no down period. And you can get very lost in the negative for starters, but also you can get lost in the weeds as far as what you're focusing on. And the biggest thing that working with I.E.Mindset has really kind of got me through a lot of bad things is not focusing on the negative. Because if you focus on the negative as an entrepreneur starting a new business, you're going to fail on day 1 or 2, because every day there is something that goes semi-wrong or wrong, really wrong. Whether it's a cold plunge flooding the whole place, which has happened.
Right.
Or you have 10 people in at one time and you're trying to coordinate everything going on. or, you're trying to get to a place where you're hiring on more people and you have to train them. Well, you can't go in there with 100 miles an hour because you're not going to get through it very well.
All right.
And you have to kind of take a step back. And I think I.E.Mindset has really helped me with the one-on-one coaching to focus on the positives, because we are doing so much positive in this area with Ignite. And, like I told you earlier, we're making a difference every single day with people.
Right.
But that doesn't go without its potholes.
Sure.
And, it goes back to the old saying, you can get a 99% on a test, but you're going to focus on that one you got wrong.
Right.
And if you, as a new business owner, if you're focusing on that one thing that didn't go right, it spirals into 2 to 20 to 30. And then all of a sudden, that negative energy is wrecking your whole business.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest part of it. And this other part of it is just being able to have a relationship with a group that has the business knowledge. If you surround yourself with good people, good things are going to happen. And you surround yourself with the I.E.Mindset group, they are promoting you from within. And you guys have, opened my eyes to things that were probably festering underneath.
Yeah.
And dealing with it in a positive way versus letting it grow into a negative effect.
No, it's a great point, because to your point, it's all about the frame that you look through, right? If you want to see negative, you're going to see negative. If you want to see positive, you want to see positive. And at the end of the day, if we can live with gratitude, the ability for anxiety and fear, it's not there. You can't be grateful and thankful and have anxiety at the same time. So, thinking about some of those situations where you had the cold plunge, flood, or, something else happened, a device wasn't working, there was adversity in the business. It's easy to say, I'm going to focus on the positive, not the negative. But is there a particular practice, something that you do to try to level set yourself or to change your physiology? What do you do when you know a situation is approaching or it has approached and you can feel it? What have you done tactically to make sure that you go to that positive place?
So I would say the biggest thing that the I.E.Mindset and you yourself have taught me is the 4-7-8 breathing.
Yeah.
And I have utilized that on a daily basis. Sometimes I'll do it before I go to bed, sometimes after, sometimes I have days where I'm doing it nonstop. And I've also incorporated that into when I'm doing red light therapy. I focus on my breathing while I'm in there. And you can put on your earbuds, you can listen to something, but if you're focusing on your breathing while you're in the red light or while you're in the sauna or while you're on the pulse PEMF, you are getting the best of both worlds. So I would say, any situation, your perception is your reality. So if you perceive something as negative, the reality of it is going to end up being negative. But if something starts out negative and you can flip it to a positive, and sometimes it's just as easy as going through your breathing, concentrating on your breathing, and all of a sudden that negative, we can get an answer for this. We can, we can fix this problem and make it a positive.
Yeah.
So,
no, that makes a lot of sense. So, our mission at I.E.Mindset is to inspire and empower, right? And I truly think that, what you've been able to accomplish in a very short period of time took a lot of courage. It is inspirational what you're doing there at Ignite. And that, I know that's not just a billboard to say that we want to make a difference and all those things, that you're doing it and you're passionate about it. But, also balancing everything else in your life, from a business to a relationship, all of those things, it sort of takes a lot. And I think other folks can be inspired and empowered by learning from other people. I've always seen you and respected you as a leader, and how you go about your business. And you've always been big with kind of certain affirmations or certain sayings about, you know, what you concentrate on, or using words as an acronym. Is there anything that like you could share with the audience that maybe they could take from that's like been beneficial to you when shit hits the fan, besides the breathing and those types of things, like something that you use tactically to help you stay on course and stay focused and keep the main thing the main thing?
Yeah, there's two things that I have them hanging in my office. I look at them on a daily basis. And one is WITH, with. We all heard of with this, with that, but it's will it to happen. And throughout this whole process, I mean, there's been a lot of times where you could take that exit right off the highway and be like, nope, this wasn't meant to be. You know, this has not been a smooth track. And anybody that thinks starting a business is smooth, well, you're in for a rude awakening. But every time I would be like, I'm next. Will it to happen? Will this to happen? This was meant to be. I knew in my heart that I was meant to do this, and will it to happen? And the second one is more flipping the script on the business. It's called be the customer.
Okay.
So if I'm looking at through a lens of a customer at Ignite, they're either coming in with pain, or they're coming in with a neurological disease, or they're coming in with something they want to improve on. And, you know, there's people that come in on a daily basis, and they're there for a long time because they feel the difference and they want to continue to feel that difference. So by looking at everything through the customer's eyes, you're able to better serve them. Now, majority of people that come in have some sort of pain. Well, I've lived with pain, so I can relate to that. But that whole mentality of will it to happen and be the customer are two things that we really have tried to install at Ignite.
Nice. That's great. So I guess to transition back to Ignite, and you're 6 months in, you're looking at you know, you went through kind of a fall sports season relative to athletics. You've done, you know, some winter. Now you're on to spring. Like, kind of what's going on right now in the short term? What's happening at Ignite?
Yep. So we have just transitioned out of our winter season, so to speak. So we will do it kind of, you know, we'll use the analogy like sports seasons. Okay. But we just transitioned out of our winter season and now we're into the spring. So that means, you know, people want to come in and feel good for the summer. So we have that group coming in. We have the spring sport athletes, anything from baseball to lacrosse to track to rugby. Any and all of those athletes are coming in now. So we have the regular members that have been there since day one with us, who have shown loyalty to us from day one, and they're seeing the difference. So it's a great potpourri mix and match of people. And the greatest part about it is we have mainly an open area. So you're getting, you know, like yesterday, for example, we had some of the baseball players in, and we had a baseball player talking to a mom. You know, she was recovering from childbirth. Yeah. He's recovering from a hard practice.
Sure.
But to hear them communicate and talk was just going back to make a difference. And, you know, it kind of gives you a pause that, you know, all right, everything that's going on in this world, there is still a lot of good in this world.
Yeah. Well, and I love the kind of the continuity, especially with proximity, with Power Strength right there. You guys are kind of that right there in front. You guys are connected there. I'm sure there's probably some overlap there and maybe some collaboration with Mark and his team at Power Strength. I got to assume that's been kind of a nice, at least, you know, connectivity for Ignite in the short term.
Mark and Brian at Power Strength have been wonderful neighbors. They've embraced our philosophy to coincide with theirs. They do an amazing job on the athletes, getting them physically ready for the challenges of competition.
Yeah.
And now we are able to add that recovery component to fully complement what they're doing.
Yeah.
And going back to the Grand Valley Pro Day out here for the D2 athletes, Power Strength had a major role in helping these guys achieve their goals. And just like our philosophy, where we have people of all ages in our facility, Power Strength is blowing up with the adult classes and the athletes. So they've embraced that too, where they're helping everybody else. And for most of the people, it's 3 steps down and you're at Ignite, or 3 steps up and you're at Power Strength. So it's been a great relationship.
Yeah. So Knowing you for as long as I do, you're you don't have small aspirations. I'm sure there's things that you think about with Ignite, and it's crawl, walk, run, and let's make sure we're doing what we need to do, blocking and tackling, to make it successful today. But I know that you've probably got this sort of BHAG, if you will, when you think about Ignite in the future. So, not to put words in your mouth or to say one thing or the other. I mean, 5 to 10 years, what are your goals and aspirations? What's your BHAG for Ignite?
So we wanted to get through the first phase of this and kind of work out all of the bugs and then make it scalable. I mean, but right away, we're getting people driving 30 minutes plus to come to Ignite, whether it's from the Caledonia area or Wayland, we had Allendale.
Right.
We've had a lot of people, and the number one question is, when are you going to open the second, third one, and where? And so, yeah, we do have goals of expanding.
Okay.
We have to do it strategically. We have to do it smart. But we already got the biggest question answered. Is there a need in West Michigan for a facility like Ignite? And there is. And the way we do it, with the combination of our medical background and the compassion and dedication and having all of these services under one roof, the area has embraced us fully, and it's been nothing short of remarkable.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. And I really think about it. I mean, I just spent some time with Kevin Guzzo. He's our new VP of Athletics with I.E.Mindset, and it's really interesting relative to just the athletic piece. There's a lot of time, money, and resources spent on sort of some of the functional things, like, certainly players go to practice and they practice, they get their reps in, and relative to that sport, maybe they have a quarterback coach or a pitching coach or whatever it is. And then, there's the power strength aspect, which what they've done. I mean, my son, Ethan, along with yours, I mean, Ethan went all the way through. It was the difference between him being a 140 pounder to being able to run the football in the OK Red. There's value and it needs to be done. But on the mental performance side, and this is where, hopefully there's a collaboration for us, I.E.Mindset and Ignite, to really take that third pillar and think about, sports and outcomes and all of those things. It's mental. The mental piece is a big part of that. So I'm excited personally for the future and thinking about, how we can collaborate together to truly, inspire, empower, help people recover. Our missions, I think, align in a lot of ways. So I guess to kind of wrap up, if there's somebody listening to the podcast, whether they're an athlete, a parent of an athlete, a parent themselves, and they're interested in finding out more about Ignite, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, you can go to our website at IgnitePRP.com.
Okay.
And that has all our information on there. It has our location. It has a contact number. It has our schedule. You schedule for a free consultation, and we'll have you come in and we'll give you a tour.
Okay.
And we'll discuss the different levels of involvement you want, whether it's just, a one-off visit or a membership, or if you want your child to go through a whole season with us. Because there's nothing more frustrating than you spend all off season getting ready for a season and you sprain your ankle the first week of practice.
Right.
And so it gets very frustrating for athletes and their parents, because they have a vested interest in their child's success too. And what we like to do is be able to speed up that process of recovery, so they're maybe not out the whole season or half a season with an injury. And then going back to what you said about the collaboration with I.E.Mindset, prime example of that was just on Monday again at the combine. These athletes have spent 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks of just hardcore training. They're coming into Ignite doing the recovery part of it. So their body is at peak performance. They get in there, showcase their skills, and they're hyperventilating because they don't have the breathing down, or they don't have that mental component to it, that dog mentality.
Yeah.
And, and they have so much invested in this, but the mind is playing tricks on them. You know, maybe they're saying, yeah, I'm just a small D2 kid. How am I going to compete with the Georgias, Alabamas, Michigan? And that mindset is what can deter their career.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side of that, if they have the dog mentality and they go in there with a chip on their shoulder that they have something to please, and they carry that on, now that can take them to the next level just as much as running a 4.39 40 or, you know, being able to do it all without any aches and pains. So it's a combination of the physical, mental, emotional part of it that is needed.
For sure. Yeah. And a lot of times, even if they have that dog, it's, you know, sometimes adversity hits and you get a couple drops as a receiver, or, you know, you did your 40 and for some reason your foot slipped a few times, and it's like, okay, now I've got this adversity. How do I get back? How do I get back to my process? What is my process? Like you talked about earlier, okay, the cold plunge is flooding. I've got this issue. Where do I go? How do I get back to gratitude? What's my one word trigger to get me back to where I'm at? So yeah, all really good things. So, I mean, I think the last piece, and I just want to differentiate this before we go. So overall, relative to coming to Ignite, you really have the ability, whether you're an athlete, a person of any age in any circumstance, there's a number of ways. It's not just a membership. It's not just one particular modality. You can buy a full membership. You can buy packages. You can buy, you know, just access to certain devices, those types of things. Like there's a number of different ways folks can engage with Ignite.
Yep. And that goes back to our individualized program.
Okay.
You know, there's people that want to just do A, B, and C. There's certain people that just want to do pulse PEMF now. There's certain people that just want to cold plunge in sauna. That's their routine. So there's different ways to go about doing that. And you're not locked into any one way or the other. This is, you know, what do you want out of this? Not what Josh wants, not what anybody else wants. It's what do you want out of it? We're there to guide you. We're there to show you, you know, some people be like, oh, what's this now? And I want to try compression. I want to try the hyperbaric chamber. I want to try the red light therapy this time. And we're there to help them establish what works best for them.
Well said. Well, again, I just, you know, to wrap up here, appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come and have some dialogue. Really appreciate you and Renee and the Ignite team entrusting us in collaboration, and excited to see what the future holds. I'm certainly enjoying my time, and I'm really excited to see you continue to expand on what you're doing and serving your mission. So thanks for coming in, brother.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. You know, I value my time with I.E.Mindset, and just leave on one note, go green.
Go blue. Sounds good, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
All right.